Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Representative Andrew Prout be reprimanded by the House of Representatives.
Does a member from Hudson, Representative Prout, wish to speak? Oh, there you are. Representative Prout.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I did not set out at the beginning of this term planning to be here. While I do believe that this rule is unconstitutional, as outside the scope of proceedings contemplated by the New Hampshire Constitution, I like learning. And the topic of sexual harassment is a serious one, not only for the operations of the legislature, but also for the people of this state that experience it and expect us to make laws addressing the topic. I see value in us having a common starting point of knowledge. The same could be said for many other topics. However, I have a busy life. In addition to being a member of this House, I work full-time, as does my wife. We have 3 children. Our oldest is 5. In addition to my wife's full-time job, she's also going to school to get her PhD and volunteers on the board of the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance, which prints the wonderful gold standards we all receive and pay close attention to. If you don't, you should. To make all this work, I don't take a committee assignment. You will very rarely see me in Concord if the House is not in session. Attending an in-person training is easier said than done. I made plans a few times, but life kept getting in the way. I wasn't going to bend over backwards, cancel a meeting at work, miss a kids' event, or miss out on something else to comply with a rule that I viewed as unconstitutional. I have taken similar training for my full-time job and notified the Speaker's office of this. Why it was not deemed acceptable alternative, as some others have, I can only speculate, as I have not been officially told a reason. Perhaps it is because my employer just relies on a list kept by Human Resources and does not issue training certificates, so I had none to provide. I did, however, provide a copy of the public announcement of the latest revamp of the training, which included a detailed description of the training and the deadline by which all existing employees must take the updated training, as well as a signed statement indicating when I actually took it. I have also watched a video of the training given by Jess Adwards because, as I mentioned, I like learning. And watching a video can be done at home after the kids are tucked into bed, which is when I have a free moment, assuming they stay in bed, which is never guaranteed. There are many differences between our status as elected officials and a normal employee-employer relationship, and I hope for some additional insight on that topic. I was not disappointed. I found the knowledge gained by watching the training valuable. I informed the Speaker's office of this as well.
Representative Prout, would you suspend, and I apologize for doing this, but if I err, I want to err on the right side. You said you submitted to the Speaker's office information that you had had training, because I have recognized some who have had training.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, I have. I sent a letter to the Speaker's office on February 3rd.
Yeah, do you have a copy of it there with you?
I do have a copy, and I sent it through Republican office staff, who emailed me back at 2:35.
Are you from New Durham?
I'm from Hudson.
Okay, I received a correspondence from a member who serves on the New Durham Volunteer Fire Department and actually does training for New Durham, and I gave him, recognized that as being adequate, but I never received anything from the minority office on behalf of yourself. That's the only one I received.
I received an email from the member of the minority office staff at 2:35 on Monday, February 3rd, saying it has been delivered.
Okay. Where did you get, I don't mean to question you, but where did you have your training done?
At my full-time employer. They have required training.
And how long ago? Was it recent?
It was in October of 2018.
Okay. I'll tell you what, without objection from the body, I'm going to suspend this on Representative Prout. If you could actually bring into the Speaker's office, instead of the Republican office does a wonderful job, and I've worked a lot with them over this past year. Somehow it got dropped in between. I want to err on the side of caution. I'm going to table this motion by ruling of the chair. This will be a new one. Can I not do that? Okay, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would move that we table this inquiry until such time as you can finish your inquiries about the training that happened.
Yeah, I'll speak to that motion. I want to be fair to. It's an undebatable motion, so I can't speak to it. Okay. The question before the House is to table the action on Mr. Prout's being reprimanded. Are you ready for the question?
I asked for PI.
What's that?
May I ask a parliamentary inquiry?
Oh, sure, certainly, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If I know that this has been hanging over me for long enough, and there's been a lot of anticipation for this day, and that I'd rather get it done today than have it be tabled, would I now press the red button and vote no on this motion?
Representative Weber is recognized for a motion.
Mr. Speaker, I probably should have given this more thought before I made the tabling motion, but at this time I would move to withdraw the motion that I made for reprimand of this representative.
That motion has been withdrawn. Representative Prout, you may continue speaking, and I take the. I know, but he was at the wall when I interrupted him. I'm going to call it. Okay.
Point of order.
Please state your point of order.
Mr. Speaker, there's already been intervening business. There's been a speech on this motion. I object to it being withdrawn at this point in time.
The motion is with the member. The member has withdrawn their motion, and that's the end of the business on this matter.
I appeal the ruling of the chair.
Well, that's your right, too. This will be a division vote. The member has challenged the ruling of the chair on the withdrawal of the motion. Members will kindly take this seat while I talk to the leader. Members need to take their seat. We're in the voting mode right now. I will recognize the member as soon as we finish the voting, but we're in the voting mode.
I have a question for the chair on what we're voting on.
Let my friend from Samberton inquire.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just have a question on what we're voting on.
Sure.
So my understanding is we had an initial motion for a reprimand, and that was moving forward. We had a follow-up motion for a tabling motion. The tabling motion was withdrawn. And what we're voting on right now is the ruling, is that withdrawing of the tabling motion?
No, and I thank the member for his question. Where we're at now is the member was speaking. He mentioned, the member from Hudson, that he had provided information to the Republican office that he believed was transmitted to the Speaker's office. Always wanting to err on the side of doing the right thing for any member. Upon hearing that, I wanted to stop the member so that we could inquire, and if that is the case, then we would deal with it in a fair and equitable manner. The member from Walpole moved to table so that we could make an inquiry and adjudicate it appropriately. The member said he did not wish to have it go forward. He did not want it tabled. The member who made the motion withdrew her motion. The point we're at now is the question was raised, that challenge to the chair, that he should not have agreed that the member had the right to withdraw that motion, which the chair does agree with. So now we're at the point where the question is before the body, do you uphold the ruling of the chair or to overturn the ruling of the chair? I hope I was clear somewhat.
Clear as mud, Mr. Speaker.
Well, I've heard that before too. The question before the House is, should the ruling of the chair to have the motion to reprimand Representative Prout removed as the member did? This will be a division vote, and the chair recognizes Representative Prout for a parliamentary inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, if I know that there has been a lot of build-up to this day, to being here today, and a lot of anticipation of addressing this topic, if I further know that after the motion has been made, there's already been at least half of a speech given on it, and intervening business, and I do not want to put this off to another time, have the motion withdrawn, brought up again later, or anything of that nature, would I now press the red button to overturn the ruling of the chair that the motion may be withdrawn after all that?
The question before the House is, should the ruling of the chair to uphold the member's right to withdraw the motion be approved? The chair recognizes a member from Walpole, Representative Weber, who's in a conversation right now, for a parliamentary inquiry. PI, yeah, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if I know that I was trying to be helpful in light of new information that was brought forward when I suggested withdrawing my motion, and if I know that the ruling of the chair was that I could withdraw the motion, would I now vote to uphold the ruling of the chair?
This will be a division vote. The question before the House is, should the ruling of the chair be upheld to allow the member to withdraw her motion? If you're in favor, you'll press the green button. If you're opposed, you'll press the red button. Voting stations will be open for 30 seconds. Have all members present had an opportunity to vote? The House will be attentive to the state of the vote. With a vote of 206 yea, 102 nay, the ruling of the chair to withdraw that motion is adopted and approved by this body. Yeah. Representative Prout, just for the record, the motion to withdraw the tabling has been ruled yes, that she could do that, and you are now back to speaking to the body. What we voted on was the we're back to the House will be in order. The motion before the House is back to the reprimand of the member. The member from
Wasn't your
The House will be in order, and the chair recognizes the clerk to give the parliamentary standing for those watching at home.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The situation was that Representative Weber sought to withdraw her motion to table the complaint against Representative Prout. The ruling by the chair was that she could. The body has upheld that. She has withdrawn her motion to table. Therefore, the reprimand of the representative is now before the House for discussion.
I thank the clerk for that. And Representative Prout is recognized. Representative Weiler, why does the member rise? The House will be in order. Representative Weiler has the right to be heard.
Point of order.
Yes, sir.
I heard the representative withdraw the reprimand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he was objecting to. That was his objection, and that's what I heard.
Okay.
She withdrew the reprimand, and he objected to the withdrawal of the reprimand, and that's what he challenged you on. That's what I heard.
Okay. Why don't you speak into the mic so we can all
May
hear
I be
you?
recognized for an apology to the House, Mr. Speaker?
Certainly. That's always in order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My deepest apologies to the House and to the representative. I had gotten confused about the parliamentary procedure, and the clerk had explained it to me, and I still got it wrong when I made that motion. So I'm going to apologize to the representative and to the body for having misrepresented in my PI where we were in the parliamentary proceedings. And that is my fault, and I am very sorry. Thank you.
I thank the member for her apology. And Representative Prout, you have the floor.
Question of the chair.
Certainly, go right
Where
ahead.
are we now?
I can help you now?
Where are we now?
Oh, I think, can you help me now? As my mother would say, the path road to hell is paved with good intentions, and I learned that lesson again today. Where we are now, where we stand in the procedure, we're back to exactly square one. We are now back where we were when you first spoke, and I interrupted you when you said that you had passed in paperwork. I was trying to protect your rights, and then it went downhill from there. But what had happened, just so Representative Prout knows, what had happened at my request, the member moved to table this proceeding so that we could look into the issue. If you had submitted paperwork, you had said that you wanted to proceed. You didn't want to table the motion. What the member was doing and not realizing was she was actually withdrawing her motion to table. And by the vote, we took back, so it brings us back to the square one. The motion pending is should the member from Hudson, Representative Prout, be reprimanded by the body.
In that case, I would also like to apologize to the House because my understanding was she was withdrawing the motion to reprimand, and that was with the withdrawal I was intending to challenge, and I believe I spoke to.
Well, and then you're back exactly where you want to be. All's well that ends well. And the member from Hudson is recognized, and I apologize for interrupting you earlier. Oh, do I apologize.
As I said, I want to get this over with one way or the other today. There's been enough building up to this, and I appreciate the Speaker offering to pause the proceedings and take a second look at it, but that is not, far less than ideal, not what I want. So to continue with my prepared speech, this issue, the issue of this reprimand is no longer about the serious issue of sexual harassment. I have taken training on that topic. I have the knowledge. It is now about technical compliance with the House rule and whether my letter that was stating the training I took at work is acceptable or not. And I believe that rule to be unconstitutional to begin with. It's outside the scope of proceedings contemplated in the Constitution, which grants authority to the House to make rules. It's about how outside training is judged for compliance, or about whether taking training in person or by video is relevant to its educational content. It could be said the rule was a setup from the beginning. No employer that I've ever worked for requires in-person training as opposed to an online course that can be completed anywhere, anytime. But more than any of those things, for me, this has become about whether this House is truly welcoming to younger members, working members, parents, or do we just pay lip service to those issues? Or is that for members of one political party and not the other? And that's a conversation I'm perfectly willing to have with my constituents between now and November, reprimand or not. Please vote your conscience.
Will the member yield to a question?
No.
The member does not yield. The question before the House is, should the member from Hudson, Representative Prout, be reprimanded by this body? This will be a division vote. Members, a roll call has been requested. Is that sufficiently seconded? It is sufficiently seconded. This will be a roll call vote. Members will kindly take their seats. I thought we had an echo. Parliamentary inquiry. The House will be in order. The gentleman from Auburn, Representative Edwards, has a question, I believe, for the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your indulgence. I lost track of what was going on there a little bit, and I just want to go back to what I think I heard the representative say that seemed very germane. He attests that he did comply with Rule 67 as it's literally written in the rules. But there's an issue whether or not the documentation has been properly submitted.
Right.
But shouldn't we, as a body of honor and trust, believe the representative when he attests to the whole House that he's attended training in person?
I thank my friend from Auburn for his question. Let me say, we always give the benefit of the doubt to a member of the House as being somebody of honor. I think I've granted approximately 15 members of this body who told me I have had in the last couple of years training in what is covered under Rule 67. In fact, one was from a member of a fire department in New Hampton, New Durham rather, who said that he actually provides training. All I asked, so we get a record of it in our office, is that he bring in some kind of a certificate so we could put there, if the question ever arises, did this member have the training, we could say, yes, this is a certification. Follow-up question?
Follow-up. Yes, sir, I understand your procedure is required for the documentation trail necessary for us to be able to demonstrate compliance. I got that.
Okay.
This vote is about a reprimand. That's what I'm talking about. Shouldn't we trust a representative who makes a personal attestation to the House when he says that he's complied with this rule, he's done in-house training? We should take that into account for a reprimand vote, shouldn't we?
Well, I would answer the member this way. The speaker interrupted. Why do I call myself in the third place? I interrupted the member and said, when he said that he submitted something indirectly to the speaker's office, I really wanted to err on the side of caution, and I asked the member to suspend, and I asked the Speaker Pro Tem to make a motion to table this, just so that he could get the appropriate, have time to get the appropriate documentation and give it to us, because we do need something. The member said, no, I want to proceed right now and go forward. I think because the member did have an option of waiting till sometime in March and get the appropriate certification. We gave him that option, but he wanted to adjudicate this matter today, so we're back to square one. And I thank my friend again for his question. Why does the member rise? Representative Platt said it right this time. Yeah. I know you didn't rise just so I can use the right pronunciation of your last name.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah.
If we were to vote down this reprimand today, and if the paperwork is not forthcoming within a reasonable time, could it come back?
No, not in my opinion. We have adjudicated the matter, and so that would be the end of it. But I thank you for the question. The question, for those who may have forgotten, the question before the House is, should the member from Hudson, Representative Prout, be reprimanded by this body? The chair recognizes the member from Charleston, Representative Smith, for a parliamentary inquiry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If I know that we began this process talking about the severity, solemnity, and how important it was, and that if essentially the version here of the prosecution should have been ready to proceed today, and if I'm looking at a letter from February 3rd where the representative in question said, here's the training that I took, temper, then, Mr. Speaker, would I press the red button since obviously there's no case against this representative?
Question before the House is, should the member from Hudson be reprimanded by this body? The chair recognizes Speaker Pro Tem for a parliamentary inquiry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If I know that the House Rule 67 provides that all legislators shall attend an in-person education and training regarding sexual and other unlawful harassment and discrimination, and if I know that despite being given repeated notice and several opportunities to participate in the trainings that were offered, the representative has done so, would I then push the green button? Thank you.
This will be a division vote. The question before the House is, should the member from Hudson... We're in the voting mode right now. That was a few minutes ago. This will be... Let me start from the beginning. This will be... Why does... Was it a roll call? Yeah. The member's right. This... Okay, let's start all over again. This will be a roll call vote. The question before the House is, should the member from Hudson be reprimanded by this body? If you're in favor, you'll press the green button. If you're opposed, you'll press the red button. Voting stations will be open for 30 seconds. Representative Horn, by a visual showing how do you vote? Your vote is recorded. If all members present had an opportunity to vote, the House will be attentive to the state of the vote. With 108 members, the House will be